Well, it turned out that that quivering, dark, drowned rat looking thing was a California ground squirrel. And I took it home, dried him, warmed him up, gave him some food and water, and he was rearing to go the very next day. And I successfully released him. So, you know, maybe you agree with helping an animal in that manner, maybe you don't. So, but since I did it, there's an excuse to talk about the ethical debates behind lending a hand to nature, intervening from time to time. I thought about that pretty much every day that I was out there. And what was the most recurring thought that I had was the fact that we as humans like to pretend to be mature and responsible and adopt this hands off approach to nature when it comes to not helping nature. But we have no problem being hands on when we want to take from nature, when we want to negatively impact nature. So let me give you some examples. Humans like to claim that certain things are overpopulated whenever they want an excuse to go out and hunt and kill some of those creatures. Usually, it doesn't have anything to do with true science. It has to do with some manipulated numbers that allows, and this isn't just on land, it's the ocean too, and the fishing industry wants to continue to rape and plunder, or when the cattle industry wants to move wildlife off of land to make that habitat more grazing pasture instead of wild habitat. Or how about Point Reyes National Seashore as an example, where the Park Service refused to let the elk out of their prison despite the drought conditions, and to refuse to bring them water and food despite there not being any water and despite proof that they were dying of malnutrition. But the Park Service has stepped in the past using birth control methods to reduce the numbers of elk. They have stepped in using lethal manners to test the elk for diseases. So whenever it comes to reducing the population, sure, we can step in. But when it comes to helping, no, we got to let nature take its course. And I'd like to share a story from my shark days. This dive group was having a very special couple of days with a humpback whale and that whale's baby. And it is magical. I've had this experience myself. It's pretty wonderful. But orcas showed up, and the orcas wanted to eat the baby. And there was a debate on the boat about whether or not to intervene. And it's like, nope, the orcas have the right to eat. This is what happens in nature. And so even though people were heartbroken, they're like, yeah, okay, that's the right thing to do. Yes, that's the mature, responsible thing to do, right? Except that we don't apply that same set of standards when it comes to us. If a whale or a dolphin supposedly saves us from a shark, as so many fake bullshit stories are out there claiming that that happens, or a dog saves someone from a bear or a wolf or a mountain lion or any of those bullshit stories too, well, that's fine. That's fine. There can be intervention whenever it comes to humans getting to survive, but humans don't ever repay the favor. If we're there at the moment and could possibly intervene and help another sentient being that might have helped us, who's to say that you weren't there for that reason? Maybe instead of saying, hey, don't help, maybe that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Maybe that's exactly why we have the skills and ability that we do have to be stewards instead of killers. But I don't know, that's a tough one. You don't want to deprive certain animals of their meals. On the other hand, if an animal can be saved, I'm sure that animal would be pretty grateful as well. Anyway, whatever the answer to that is, the real takeaway is that there's a double standard. And The double standard came again when they released the goats on this habitat. There's no problem. Humans had no problem taking away from the wildlife. They had no problem unleashing these goats that ate everything, and removed all the shelter and trampled all the dens and trampled all the soil, denuded every last branch, took away every piece of edible green forage. That's fine. We can interfere with nature on that ground, as long as there's an excuse, whether we claim that we're actually helping the habitat or that it's fire, fuel mitigation, whatever. We have an excuse for everything now. The bottom line is that we have a double standard. We can take from nature, but if someone wants to help out these animals that for 7 months didn't have any water, while we humans simultaneously drowned our lawns and washed our cars and really asshole behavior of that sort. But someone like me bringing in some water to help these animals over a hump, no. That's irresponsible. Be hands off. Be hands off. Let nature take its course. You know, if you're a wildlife lover, whether that be the top of the food chain or the bottom of the food chain, these things need a little hand getting over the hump. And if I help some mice survive, and that helps a hawk then survive, or a ground squirrel survives and that helps a coyote survive, or the plants get some water and the plants survive and that helps the deer survive, and then just a circle of life can continue. But when we, the humans, cause an insane heat wave and cause an insane drought, and then come through and take what little forage there was and remove what little hiding space there was left, and you turn around and say, no, you can't give these animals a lending hand, I'm going to say, fuck you. Fuck you. Turn around and take a look at the true human impact and stop pretending like we're hands off. We're hands on all the time when it comes to being destructive. The only time that we're hands off is when it requires us to do some good work. You know, planting some native plants, shielding the area off from humans and other influences, getting the barbed wire out of there, cleaning up all the litter. How about the fishing line entangling the animals that are living down there? No, we can't do any of that, but we can unleash livestock where the animals live. That's helpful. How about population control? When an area is showing some sign of recovery, when all the animals living there aren't all on the endangered list. Well, what do? Do we let nature take its course? Do we allow some predators to come in and manage that population? Do we let them thin it out themselves? No, suddenly we're ready to step in. There's an excuse to kill things. This isn't meant to be a commentary on hunting or harvesting animals or anything like that. It's just to drive the point home that when it comes to nature, we have a complete double standard about when we're willing to be hands-on and hands-off. A coyote makes the mistake of poking his head through the trees and is seen by someone in the distance, and oh God, you have a wildlife problem. A rare wolf re-enters California after decades of being missing, and instead of it being embraced and helping it flourish, oh God, there's too many wolves. God, I love the song of the red-winged blackbird. Look, there's even a hummingbird out there. I had to jog for 2.5 miles before I found the type of vegetation, the type of habitat conditions where red-winged blackbirds were gathering and mating and singing, only to watch that same spot, that rare spot, get bulldozed because humans can justify anything they want, any way they want, when it serves their purposes. Don't worry, the birds will adapt. They'll find another place to go. I don't know where, but we always say that. And now the sound of their singing will be replaced by perpetual leaf blowing. Leaf blowers, the new official soundtrack of urban sprawl. So every ground squirrel that I helped get a little fatter out there, well, that meant a better meal for a coyote somewhere down the road. And do I feel bad for that ground squirrel? Nope. He had a fighting chance. He was out in the wild. He had the ability to evade the predator, and he died free. That's how nature intends it. But it's one thing to help the squirrel or the mouse or the birds or the skunk or the possum or the deer over the hump. But in order for the coyote to actually be able to hunt effectively, the coyote needs a little help getting over the hump too. You know, can you imagine? Can you imagine having the energy to try and stalk something when you haven't had water or food in ages and it's stifling heat? Oh, I know. It's a wild animal. Wild animals are capable of amazing things. Put yourself in their shoes and stop trying to talk so tough and calloused. Because half of a hard day out in the elements and you will be changing your tune, much less a month out there, much less 7 months without any water. Once again, when humans need an excuse not to help nature, then they compliment wildlife by saying, oh, they're capable of so much, they'll adapt. We give this fake compliment to nature. Let's say that a development company wants to move into an area and chop down the trees and clear out the creek. And people say, oh, they're wild animals, they'll adapt, they'll find somewhere to live. So we're ready to compliment nature when we need an excuse to say that it's capable of adapting to our destruction. And when we want justification not to help, not to bring supplies to the animals, not to show mercy to the animals. Once again, it's this fake compliment of, oh, nature doesn't need it, you should let nature be. The problem is, none of the people saying that actually know that. They're repeating what other people have said, and once again, acting like destructively obedient robots. They repeat what they've heard without actually knowing any of it. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. For the sake of argument, maybe it's true. But the bottom line is, you don't know. You really don't know. But you sure are anxious to embrace that theory. The theory that allows you not to be helpful. The theory that allows you to continue to inflict harm upon nature, to continue to drive animals out of their native habitat. The theory that allows species that are struggling to continue to dwindle in their numbers. Whatever happened to a mentality in which people err on the side of good? Would it be so terrible to see extra animals survive? As if we even get to define what extra is. Humans pretend like we know all of these things, but we're the most unsustainable, out of control population on the planet, and yet we get to decide how many of something there should be. Anyway, the dilemma becomes, how do you help out these coyotes? Especially since I don't like to buy meat products. And of course, I already face that dilemma because I have dogs and I don't force them to eat plants all the time, although they do like a lot of my plant-based foods. They're omnivores. They're definitely not purely carnivores, even though they are descendants of primarily carnivorous animals, wolves. And as are the coyotes, primarily carnivorous, although they can definitely act as omnivores and eat other things. So I caved and I got them some store-bought meat. And man, talk about a reminder of how expensive meat is. I don't get any of this talk about being vegan is too expensive. What the fuck are you talking about? I was vegan before I was vegan, just because of finances. In college, I mean, I was getting made fun of because I'd bring home carrots and beans and stuff like that, and just trying to survive. That wasn't because I wanted to. No, I was a full blown meat eater. But the most expensive thing in the store was, and still is today, meat. I don't know what people are talking about. It's expensive to be vegan unless you're trying to buy the replacement meals. And anytime a product is trying to make its way into a market and doesn't have the government subsidization that meat does, then yeah, you're going to have some challenges. But you go back to just eating legumes, you eat vegetables, you eat fruit, you eat nuts, you eat pasta. It's not expensive. Don't be stupid. So, anyway, as usual, I get heated during these conversations and stated things matter of factly, but I am interested. This is very interesting topics to discuss and debate. So, I'm curious what other people think about whether or not you should help animals and when you should help animals and how you feel about buying meat. Man, if I knew how to provide coyotes with food that they would eat without buying it from the tortured slave flesh that is provided in the store. I mean, the other alternative is to go out and kill a wild animal and feed it to the coyote, which kind of defeats the purpose, you know. The point was not to kill. And then I went out and purchased things that were killed. So I can't deny that it's not a little bit of a it's a little bit of a quandary, huh?